Hi players, bonjour from Geneva. My name is Asaf and welcome to my channel Easy Board Games. Today, as a huge fan of 4X games, I am super happy and excited to give you an overview and a preview for Master of Orion Ad Astra that is published by Archon Studio. Before we're diving in, let me just tell you the obvious, that this is a prototype of the game itself, and while being a very advanced prototype, most likely the things that you're going to see in this video are going to change to some certain degree until we are going to receive the final version of the game. Ready to see how it goes? Let's dive in directly to the overview and take it from there. In Master of Orion Ad Astra, each player is going to play a different faction, and let me just tell you that I never really played the computer game, so I don't really know how everything works to compare it with a computer game. But in any case, each player is going to play a different faction. As you can see right now, the board is set up for 3 players. We have over here the Republic of Sol, that is the human race. We have also the Klakon Hive, hopefully I'm pronouncing it well, and also we have the Darlock Cabal. In this game, we're going to play through a series of rounds, and that depends if we want a normal or recommended game of 6 rounds or the epic game of 8 rounds. And in each round, we're going to have 2 steps basically. The first step that we're going to have is the drafting phase, where each player is going to take 5 of these technology cards, and after a small procedure of drafting, each player is going to stay with 3 technology cards and also some starting cards that they're going to have at the beginning of the game in their hands. After the drafting phase, each player at their turn, according to the turn order that we have over here, is going to do any amount of free actions that they would like, but they are going to take each free action once unless something else was specified, and then they're going to take a standard action. That is actually the main action that is going to be at that player's turn, and after that the next player is going to take their turn. The 2 free actions that we'll be able to do at the beginning of the game is to make a trade deal. That means to negotiate a little bit with the other players about resources and diplomats. Don't worry, we'll get to that soon enough. And also we'll be able to do something that is called a forced labor, which is basically just taking resources, as long as we understand that for each resource that we're going to take, we're going to advance with our unrest marker 2 times. Then by playing one of the cards that the player has, so as we said, we're going to have here a few starting cards, as you can see over here. 3 of them are going to be exactly the same. That is the flight, attack, invasion, or exploration. Also, they're going to have 2 other of these action cards. One of them is going to have growth, research, construct, and diplomacy. And also we're going to have a specific card that belongs only to that empire. That means to that faction, that only them will be able to use that. So on top of that, don't forget that we're going to have 3 other technology cards that they will be able to use, and that depends according to the actions that we'll be able to see at the top right corner of the card. Let's talk about the first action, that is a flight, which basically means that we'll be able to move around the map either in the same system that we have from one location to another, or I will be able to move from one system to another one, and that depends if it is completely linked or if you have a specific technology, for example, like advanced jump drive or normal jump drive, and that will allow us to move from one system to another, even if we don't have the full circle, or if we have technology for half of it, or not at all. The second thing that we'll be able to do is to attack, and when we want to attack, we're basically need to declare it. We're not going to move our units, we're just simply going to do the combat itself. We'll get to combat a little bit later. We'll be able to invade, because even if I manage to destroy the units of another faction and right now I'm in their system, still that system doesn't belong to me yet. I will need to invade it, take out the population, and only then I will be able to install my population in that system and to take full control over that system and the planet that is at the center. Also, something else that we'll be able to do is to explore, and that is something that we have with some of these tiles that we have over here. So let's assume we have this one. The question mark is something that we're going to place it once we are revealing this tile. And to reveal this tile, basically, I just need to move to an unexplored system. So let's go back a little bit, and just for the fun of it, let's say that I can move from here to here. Since right now I'm moving to an undiscovered system, I'm going to take 2 tiles that correspond, of course, to the same system that we have. We have a few of those over there. And the active player is going to choose one of these tiles and they're going to place it at the center. The other one is simply going to be reshuffled again in that pile. Then we're going to take 2 of these discovery tiles, and then again the active player is going to choose one of them to place in that system. Let's say that we have decided to place this one, and then according to the anomaly number that we can see over here, we're simply going to take 2 anomaly tokens, and with a discovery action, we'll be able, if we have here units, to deplete one of these tokens and then take 2 anomaly cards, choose one to stay with us, and actually the anomaly cards can be quite strong, give you some free actions to do and so on. So that is the exploration basically part that we have in Master of Orion, that is to enter to a new system, to an undiscovered one, discover it, and then actually to explore the system itself, which is kind of cool, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit later as well. Also, we'll be able to have some growth. So as you can see, we have here a D4, and each number, of course, is going to represent a certain amount of population. The more we're going to advance with our population to make that number higher, that I'm guessing that you already guessed it, but we are going to increase the production that we have with that specific resource. Then we'll be able to research, which is something that we're going to do on our empire board. 3 out of the 4 columns of technology, as you can see here, are going to start at 0. One of them is going to start already at 1. When we want to research, we'll need to pay a certain price and then advance. Those things are going to open for us more abilities, like having more technology cards. We'll be able to build the different buildings that we have in this game, and so on. The next thing that we'll be able to do is to construct. When we're constructing, we're either going to construct one of our units, and we have 4 types of units in this game. The first unit that we have, that is the smallest one, that is a frigate, and actually each unit, which is something that is pretty comfortable, is going to take some space on a specific hexagon in this style, because you'll be able to place units where you're having this iconography. And we have here, I'm not so sure you can see it with the camera, I'll try to zoom in a little bit, but we have here this kind of circles. Each circle can hold a unit or a part of unit. So if I'm going to place this frigate over here, it's going to take up to 1 of these circles. So that means that I'll be able to have here 3 of these frigates, but the next unit already, that is called a cruiser, already has a bigger base. So it's going to take place of 2 of these circles. So this is going to be the maximum that I'll be able to have in this hexagon. Then we're going to have Titan. So as you can see, it's going to take the entire hexagon. And then we even have something that is called a Doomstar, which is this pretty insane miniature that we have. And actually every Doomstar of each other faction is going to be completely different. Actually, every module here of the different factions is going to be different, which is really kind of cool. On top of our units, we'll be able to build one of the 13 buildings that we have in this game. Some of them, in order to be built, need a more basic version. So for example, if I'm having here this outpost, then later I will be able to upgrade it into a battle station, so it's just going to replace it. But on top of that, we have different things that are going to increase our resources, like farms, like enrichment facilities, something for the technology, for the production. And really, we have here quite a lot. And already something that I saw on the GameFound page is basically that some of the different buildings are already come in the color of the specific resource they're going to help us, so it will be a little bit easier to detect them, and they're not just going to be a gray, simple gray like this. The last action that we'll be able to take is the diplomacy, and this is an entire thing on its own, because we'll be able to send and receive diplomats with the trade action. We'll be able to increase our influence in different systems. We'll be able to increase the unrest for other empires or to decrease in ours. And I don't want to take too much time for you guys because this is just an overview, but diplomacy is really an entire huge thing on its own. After all the players have passed, and every time you're going to pass, you're going to have something that is called a management sub-phase, where you're going to produce your resources according to, again, what you had on the board. And then the first player that has passed is going to control the raiders that we have here, the pirates, which is another kind of like a neutral faction with other pretty cool units, as you can see right over here, including the Guardian that is going to be revealed when we're going to discover where Orion is actually hiding, and that is going to be the last system that we're not going to discover. And also we have here these normal raiders. So the first player in a specific round that is going to pass is going to control these raiders. They're going to first of all produce one inside where we have over here the pirate battle station, and then they will be able to attack the different factions. And the last player that is going to pass in a specific round is actually going to add one of the mission cards that we have over here for the public missions. And then as we're going to advance with the game, we're going to start taking those missions away from the game. So that was, I'll be honest with you, a super fast forward overview of this game, because there are quite a lot of things that I haven't talked about actually in this overview. For example, the diplomats, again, that we'll be able to exchange during the free trade action at the beginning of our turn, which is another thing on its own, because each diplomat is going to have different tiers that one player will be able to activate, and we actually have spies over there. So basically, when you're doing trade, besides resources, you can actually say, hey, I have this diplomat that is going to give you some credits, some of this money, and I see that your government is actually on a higher side, so I can activate it on a second level, and then you're doing the trade, and at the end it might be even a spy. So we have here two types of diplomat cards. We have actual diplomats that are going to benefit the target, and we have over here spies that are going to do a little bit of less good things to the target. And it's actually kind of a cool thing that we have over here. Again, another layer of strategy that we have to think about it. And basically each small thing that I'm kind of discovered while playing in this game just add more depth to Master of Orion. So that was the general overview. And usually in my reviews, which is not really what is going to happen right now, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit going to mix it up. I'm talking about the difficulty of learning the game, and also the setup time. Is it complicated or not? And also another thing, when you're doing this overview, preview, whatever, for prototypes, it's a little bit more tricky, because you know that the rules are probably going to be tweaked. Some of them are going to be completely changed. I mean, I'm not talking about the core mechanisms of the game. Obviously, Archon Studios are not going to say 6 months from now, hey, you know what, guys, we decided to take out exploration, so this is not anymore a 4X game. Of course, it's not going to happen, but some things are going to change, and that was one of the reasons that I decided with Archon Studio that at the end I'm not going to do a playthrough right now for this game, only when I'm going to receive actually the final version. So maybe I kind of blew the surprise, because you already know that I definitely intend to back this game, and I hope that during this overview, preview, you'll understand my excitement and understand why am I actually going to do it. So again, the thing is that the rulebook is still not in its final version. So that means that maybe some things that are unclear can be maybe unclear just because one part of the rulebook should be before another part of the rulebook. So it's a little bit difficult to judge. But the thing is that rule by rule, the game itself is not complex to understand. I was kind of surprised. I mean, there are some small points where I'm like, hold on, I think that I didn't really understand it, but most likely it's just because the rulebook, again, is not in its final version. But in general, even though the rulebook is not in its final version, I think that the rules themselves are pretty clear, and also setup was really relatively easy. You just pick some tiles according to how many players you are, 2, 3, or 4 players. For now, that is what I saw with the prototype that I received. I cannot tell you, and I of course don't want to commit to it, if there is going to be a solo mode or an expansion for more players or something like that. For now, it's a 2 to 4 players. So even at 4 players, it's not that of a big deal. Basically what we're going to do, just take a certain amount of tiles from different systems, and then we're going to place the central tile or tiles, again depends on how many players you're going to be, and each player in their turn is just going to take one tile and they're going to add it to the board like in many other games that we've seen, and this is actually what is going to build our map. So it's a little bit of a game inside a game, just to make things maybe sometimes a bit more balanced. Maybe the first player that is going to first choose where they want to be at is going to choose or try to navigate the way the map is going to be built, but the other players will be able to, of course, balance it. So setup, relatively easy, and I'm guessing this is only an assumption, at least from the experience that I've had with Archon Studios for Heroes of Might and Magic, that the insert is going to be great. It's not going to, I'm guessing it's not going to take too long. Moving on to the gameplay itself, it's very, very difficult not to integrate like my thoughts into this game, like really what was the level of excitement that I had, if I had fun, what I really liked, what I didn't like. So basically what I liked in this game, that it gave me a very good feeling of building something, okay? I'm not so sure if it's because I feel that the game might be a little bit too slow in the beginning, or actually it's kind of cool because I really like that you have the chance to actually kind of build your engine, you know, start to build your small corner of this vast empire that you have over there, and then actually go to combat. Some other players or some other games, you're like, okay, finished the first round, already combat, or actually during the first round, like in many other games and examples that you can sure think of for yourself. But I kind of like it, even though it a little bit felt maybe slow in the beginning. Resources here are going to be tight, which is again something that you might like or don't like. This is why the trade action is actually super important, but also a little bit of an Achilles heel over here, I want to say, just because the negotiation over here might add a little bit to the downtime, I'm sorry. And imagine that at certain point of the game, well, at the beginning of the game, it's going to be a little bit easier and maybe faster, but at some point of the game, trade actions, because you're going to have different resources and different diplomats, are going to take, let's say, even 4 minutes per, like this negotiation, because the active player will be able to address the different players and offer them like a certain deal. So if this doesn't work, I can ask you or I can ask the other player. So if this is going to be 3 to 4 minutes, let's take it 3 minutes, okay? And I'm doing it 3 times, that's 9 minutes, okay? Almost 10 minutes that the other players are not doing anything. So that means that the player that just finished their turn is going to have an accumulating downtime over there. So it's not such a huge big deal, but I do think, and this has nothing to do with the game, I think that in general negotiation should be kind of limited with a timer, but this is something that you might want to consider, just because negotiation is a thing over here, especially because at the early stages of the game, the resources are tight. Next, something that I found very cool is actually the use of the action cards to do the different actions. So technology cards, which again, I understand why they're called like that, because you will be able to research them. And that means that if you're holding the criteria, let me show you this example right over here. I can play this card in order to do the construction, as you can see over here. And then if my engineering technology is researched to level 1, then basically I can choose to leave this card next to my empire board in order to receive a special bonus. It can be something that is going to help the different production. It can be something that is going to give a free action. It can be actually a technology of a specific weapon. I absolutely love the dual use of cards. And also, of course, in the draft, it's going to add that much of strategy planning, because you're not only thinking which action do I need, you're also going to think, how can I keep that card with me? And At this point, I a little bit found also some sort of like a Euro side to this game. I don't know if it's good or bad. Honestly, I don't know if it's good or bad, so take it or leave it. But the thing is that you kind of want to maximize your round. So you might think, okay, I want to do this action, but in order to leave that card later and gain from it a technology that I'll be able to research, I actually need a higher level in one of the technologies. It can be physics, for example. And then you're thinking, okay, in order to do that, then I need this card, so I'll need to have 4 science. So that means that I need to, and to some degree, it's cool because again, you have here more strategical depth. At the other side, it might lead a little bit into analysis paralysis in this game. So again, it's a matter of maybe a timer or you're just cool with downtime. But I think that this and the negotiation are the 2 parts where I'm seeing this game going from a X amount of time to a X plus 1-2 hours. And yes, I do mean 1 or 2 hours. And no, I'm not talking to you at all about the learning 1 or 2 games that you might need just to be comfortable with the rules. So those are the 2 parameters that I want to say might other people find not to their liking. But if you're taking that off the board and you're actually looking at the other things that you have over here, there are so many things here, and I say it in the best of ways. You wanted tech tree, you got it. Not only tech tree, you have different things. You have things that are actually going to be connected, just like I said, like you're going to play a technology card for the action, then you'll be able to leave it as one of your researched technologies, which is something that is going to help you later in combat. I absolutely love those connections that you have between the different mechanisms, between the different aspects that you have in this game. I'll give you another example that is just in front of me. In some of the planets, let's take something just to give an example. This will be 2 cool examples. So as you can see over here, the different numbers that you can see over here are basically what is the limit of the population that will be able to do that specific action. So you will not be able to have here more than 1 population that is taking food, here 0 science, and here for a construction, I want to say, you'll not be able to have more than 2, but you have these small icons underneath. So basically this icon is going to say, hey, have you researched your terraforming technology? Great. That means that over here, your limit is going to grow by 1. And over here, I think that it's going to be called advanced terraforming, if I'm not mistaken, because it has a little bit of a different iconography. If you have researched your advanced terraforming, over here, the limit is going to grow by 2, and here it's going to grow by 2. So something that might seem like a planet that nobody would like at the beginning of the game, at some point is going to completely change and actually going to be crazy good, because not only that, at the end of the game, while this planet that served you well in the beginning worth only 1 victory point, over here we have a total different story. So just the different things that are intertwining during the game, I find it kind of epic, and I absolutely love those combinations. Let's talk a little bit about combat that, to my surprise, actually is pretty streamlined. I kind of like it. You have the technologies you need to declare in the beginning. Guys, I'm really making it as short and as focused as possible. So in the combat, you're going to see who is the attacker, who's the defender. That goes without saying. Then you're going to declare if you have some abilities that you would like to bring into this combat, starting with the attacker, then the defender. Then you're going to see how many dice you're going to roll. So basically each type of ship is going to roll a different amount of dice. You'll be able sometimes to upgrade a little bit, of course, if you have the technology. And then again, according to the type of ship and the technology that you have, when you're rolling the dice, you're going to see what is the target number that you need, that number or higher, in order to do damage. You have hit points, shields. Again, very, very cool. streamlined but still feels very good. It's like maybe not my favorite mechanism of combat, right? Just like rolling dice. But at the same time, you a little bit feel like you're dealing with combat cards as well, just because you can exhaust sometimes some of your technologies, and you are going to use those technologies that you research in order to mitigate maybe the roll of dice that you have. For example, in the game that I played yesterday, I had a technology that I'm sorry I forgot its name, but basically it allows you to re-roll one die if the outcome is one or more or two more, which is kind of cool. So again, it gives you that second option. Combat in this type of games is super important in a way that it has to be streamlined, which what I found in Master of Orion to be the case, because all the other things are going to take time. Again, like I said, the trade, the diplomacy, the maybe the analysis paralysis when you're doing the draft, right? At the first step, as the first phase, sorry, in every round. So combat for me is check. It's absolutely something that I like. Of course, if you're not the kind of players that like dice in your combat because you don't want to leave anything for luck, you want something to be a little bit more deterministic, then this is just something that you need to take under your consideration. Also, there's a lot of importance over here if you're going to pass first or last. There is actually a lot of thinking over there, because I thought that I was smart in the game, and I kind of like wanted to pass first just to receive that bonus of one resource and also play a little bit with the raiders over here. But the thing is that while I did the passing action and I'm like, okay, now I'm finished for the round. I mean, they're going to just, the other players are just going to continue playing. Then it means that they're going to possibly take 2 or 3 actions more than you did. That depends, of course, how late into the round you decided to pass. So it's cool, but at the other hand, you're just sitting there a little bit and thinking, maybe I shouldn't have passed. But then when someone else is passing before you, you're like, damn, I should have passed like in the last turn, but there's nothing to do and the game continues. And then the last player is actually going to control a little bit the missions, which is also super important, of course, for the end of the game victory points. Guys, you understood. This game has a lot of complexity and a lot of things that you need to think of, which is, for me, again, as a huge fan of 4X and heavy games, I like it. I simply like it. Let's talk about the components, okay? And let me take you again to the table. And just from looking at it, I mean, just the models, and I'm guessing that they're going to stay like this in the game itself. Let me get the Doomstar of another faction that we have here. This is so impressive. So again, from my previous experience with Archon Studio, with Heroes of Might and Magic, I'll be honest with you, and I don't mind saying it because it's on another game. When I received Heroes of Might and Magic, I was kind of shocked by actually the production quality and how high-end it was relatively to the price that I paid. I mean, I don't want to throw just numbers because I can't remember exactly. I want to say it was around the 230 euros with the VAT, and I might want to say with delivery, but I'm not sure. So again, doesn't really matter. But the amount of content that I received and the value of the game was huge. And when I'm looking at what I have over here, and I looked at the price that we have at GameFound, I was like, damn, you're going to receive so much content for relatively, of course, everything can be compared, right? But for a relatively not an expensive game to what we have today in the market. I remember, and I know, and I don't want to tell you which titles, but I bought Eurogames for more than what I can see for the price of Master of Orion, and the production value and the game that I received there was not Master of Orion, okay? I'm not talking about if the game was good or not. It's not even a part of this equation. I'm just talking about production-wise. So you're receiving here a lot of things, and I'm not even talking about the expansions. just because I didn't get to see them, I didn't get to play them, I didn't read about them. I'm only looking at the core, what seems to be the core, and I'm guessing, again, if I understood correctly, that it's not even everything that is going to be there, because when the campaign is going to be launched, there are going to be some stretch goals as always, etc. But just from looking at what I have right now on the table, it is impressive. I mean, I wouldn't mind keeping this as the actual game, just need to add the rulebook itself. So that's the production value of what you're receiving over here, which is to me very impressive. So just to make everything a little bit shorter, and for those who just directly jump into the timestamp, let me make it short for you. Master of Orion, which is a true 4X game, which again, we have a lot of games that are saying, yeah, I'm a 4X game. No, you're not. You don't have exploration, or you don't have a real extermination. No, this is not the case over here. This is a true 4X game with exploration, with expanding, with exploiting, and with exterminating your enemies. For me, this is something that I'm very excited for. I would be more than happy to pledge for Master of Orion. I just can't say something else. This is, to me, again, I didn't play it a lot like I usually do before I'm reviewing, previewing, whatever, a game. But I see here the potential, and it's great. Rules that are going to be tweaked a little bit, of course, until the final version. Even if there's going to be a little bit of an errata later, fine. But the gameplay itself is super fun. All in all, you guys, I hope that this preview made you understand if this game might be for you or not. Again, 4X is my favorite genre of board games, so I really cannot say no to any 4X board game. But this one really got me excited. Simple, it's just simple. It got me excited. I love the potential that it has now, even though the rules are not final, which is a little bit frustrating, but the main game is over there, and I see the potential, and I cannot wait to see it in its final version. Production value is great. It's amazing, again, relatively to the price. Just like in Heroes of Might and Magic that we saw from Archon Studio before. And just take under consideration, again, the things that I said that might not be for you. If you don't like combat with dice, if downtime is something that might bother you, especially in the drafting and in the negotiation aspects of the game, when different players are going to do some negotiation, this is where the game might stay on the table a little bit more than what you would have wanted it to stay. Not a deal breaker, at least for those who have the patience to stay more around the table, or for those that are actually willing to put a timer. You do you, my friends. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I truly appreciate it. I hope again that you learned a little bit more about Master of Orion. I hope that at some point I will be able to produce a good playthrough for this game when the final version is going to reach backers. And until then, take care, and I'll see you next time.